Hello everyone, welcome to the KVPY 2020 chemistry solutions discussion. So those who are watching this, right, maybe you can take a look at the previous years also, because we have discussed the 2019-2018 papers also. You can take a look at them. So we'll start with the 1 mark questions first. The correct set of quantum numbers for the unpaired electron of copper atom. See, where the unpaired electron of copper atom will be there. I mean, if you look at the copper will have what? Anomalous electronic arrangement. Instead of 3d9 4s2, instead of this, right, because of the extra stability of the complete filled d subshell structure, copper will be having what? Anomalous arrangement, 3d10 4s1. So the unpaired electron of the copper, right, where is it? It is actually in the s orbital of the fourth shell, which means what? So if you want to identify the quantum numbers of this, so this is what is the unpaired electron. So for this unpaired electron, if you want to identify the quantum numbers, right, it is in the fourth orbit, which means what? N is equal to 4. It is in s subshell. S subshell means what? L is equal to 0. See, by this itself, right, we can conclude the answer. Why? Because N equal to 4, L equal to 0, that is only in one of the options. That's it. But since for the s orbital, right, for the s orbital, the m value will be what? Only 1, 0. Because normally m, it can have values ranging from minus L to plus L. If L is equal to 0 means m can only have one value, which is what? 0. And spin quantum number can be either plus half or minus half. Okay, so look at this. What is the quantum number set for the unpaired electron? N will be 4, fourth orbit. L equal to 0, s subshell. S orbital means what? M can only have one value, 0. Spin quantum number can be either plus half or minus half. So next we have a question based on the polarity. Among the following, the most polar molecule is. So we have to find which of them is most polar. See, when we have polar covalent bonds, so there may be polar covalent bonds, but due to symmetry, what happens is the overall molecule becomes non-polar. Means what? If you look at the polarity as generally you will study about this in physics, dipole moment, which is a vector quantity. Dipole moment is what? It's a vector quantity. It will cancel. Based on directions, it will cancel. So symmetric molecules, right, the bonds may be polar, but due to the symmetry, right, the dipole moment values of these bonds, because it is a vector quantity, it will be getting cancelled. Like we can see a lot of examples. AlCl3. I mean, of course, AlCl3 will exist as a dimer, but if you look at the normal arrangement, right, so if you take single AlCl3, it must be having what? Trigonal planar kind of an arrangement, just like BCl3. So what happens? Symmetry, each of the aluminum chlorine bonds are what? Polar, but due to symmetry, the dipole moments will cancel. Same will be CCl4 also. It is what? Tetrahedral, symmetrical, they will cancel. Same with SeCl6, octahedral. What is the arrangement? It is octahedral. That is also symmetric. Octahedral means what? What is the octahedral representation? 4 chlorines in the plane pointing towards the corners of the square, and one above, one below the plane. We call it as what? Axial positions. So again same thing, what happens here? Due to the symmetry, the dipole moments will be cancelling each other. The only place where this will not happen is the arsenic chloride. Just like arsenic is where it is in the nitrogen family, right? It belongs to what? Nitrogen family. So the arsenic will be having lone pair of electrons. So after forming 3 bonds with chlorine, there will be lone pair. Overall arrangement is what it is, sp3 hybridization, and it will be having pyramidal shape, so to say. Why? Because one of the tetrahedral positions is taken by the lone pair. Okay, so as a result of it, what you see is this molecule will not be symmetrical. Okay, so this is not a symmetrical molecule, and moreover, what is there? There will be bond dipole moment as well as lone pair dipole moment. There will be what? Bond dipole moment as well as a lone pair dipole moment. Okay, it is a different thing that they will partially cancel each other, because if you take the lone pair dipole moment towards the lone pair electrons, bond dipole moments will be what? Towards the more electronegative element, chlorines. So they will partially cancel each other, but it will still have some dipole moment, because this is not a symmetric molecule. It is not a symmetric molecule, so it will still have some dipole moment. So among the given, right, because aluminum chloride, carbon tetrachloride, selenium hexachloride, all of them are what? Symmetric molecules. So they will have net dipole moment will be 0. That's why they will be what? Non-polar. But arsenic chloride is what? Just like NCl3, like that, it will be also what? It will be a polar molecule. So next we have a interesting question. Among the following, the most acidic compound. See, how do you say, which is the most acidic compound? Generally, when you are talking about the acidic nature of, so all these we can call them as what? Hydrocarbons. When you want to talk about the acidic nature of the hydrocarbons, right, means what? They must lose H plus. When they lose H plus, what they will form? They will be forming a carbon ion. So when a particular hydrocarbon will be able to easily lose H plus, when the formed carbon ion is stabilized. So generally these kind of questions, right, we must look out for, is there a possibility of resonance stabilization, because the carbon ion formed, if it is able to get resonance stabilized, then definitely what? The H plus can be removed from that particular hydrocarbon, so that the formed carbon ion is what? Stabilized. Among the options, if you see, right, we can see something very peculiar with option B. What is it? If you remove the so here we'll have 2 hydrogens, we'll have 2 hydrogens here. If you remove one of the hydrogens, then what is the carbon ion will be forming? We will be forming a carbon ion. Okay. So we'll have 2 pi electrons here, because a pi bond means what? 2 electrons. And there are 2 electrons of the carbon here. So totally what is the number of electrons that can be delocalized? 2 plus 2 plus another 2, what is it? 6. So you see here what is happening, this actually satisfies that Florin plus 2 rule, Huckel rule. The number of delocalized electrons is what? 6, which means what? This option B, we will be able to see what? Aromaticity. So once the hydrogen is removed as H plus, right, the formed carbon ion will be stabilized by what? The aromatic nature. not just resonance, it is stabilized by what? The aromatic nature of the carbon ion. So thereby, right, that particular compound B will be able to easily lose H plus, because the anion formed is what? It is having aromatic nature, or we can say it is getting what? Aromatic nature, because of course it satisfies the conditions of an aromatic compound. So it will be having what? A 4n plus 2 number of delocalized electrons. Whereas the other cases, right, I mean, so if you are removing a hydrogen from here, the anions formed, they will not be able to give rise to aromatic nature. So you see here it will be what? 2 plus 2, 4. Here if you take means, it will be what? 6 plus 2, 8. So we don't satisfy the Huckel rule. Here if you form an anion means, number of electrons will be 6, but you see these two carbons, right, the two carbons here, they are what? sp3. So the delocalization of the electrons will not happen throughout the ring. That is why this compound, this anion, right, even if you remove the hydrogen as a proton, this will not have the delocalization of the electron cloud in the ring completely. That is why it will not be an aromatic compound. So aromatic compound means what? The delocalization should be throughout the ring, but it will not happen in the case of the anion formed from the compound D. So only the possibility to get the aromatic nature is with compound given in the option B, which will be able to give us what? A carbon ion that is what? Stabilized by aromatic nature. So we can even see, like, how the so here we have the negative charge. Says here how, if this negative charge is used for forming the additional bond. So in the next arrangement, right, what we will have? We will have like this. We will have double bond here, and the negative charge will come. Next we can have delocalization further. Then what we will have? We will have a negative charge will come here. So there will be the complete delocalization of the electron cloud within that ring. That is why it will be having what? Aromatic nature, and that cannot happen in the option B. Next we have one more question about the acidic nature comparison. So here we have phenol and phenol derivatives. Generally, right, phenol itself is having acidic nature, and that is mainly attributed for what? The resonance stabilization of the phenoxide ion. So phenoxide ion, the ion that is formed after the removal of H plus, right, that is stabilized by resonance. That is why we can see that phenol will be able to demonstrate the acidic nature. But here the thing is, we have to compare phenol with other derivatives of phenol. See, if you are keeping OMe, means what? This is like OR group, alkoxy group. Alkoxy group are what? Plus R effect group. When you keep a plus R effect group in the para position, right, plus R groups will reduce the acidic strength of phenol. Minus R groups will increase the acidic strength of phenols, because they will try to withdraw the electron cloud from the oxygen. So thereby what? The oxygen will be able to easily get rid of the hydrogen as H plus. Okay, where when you have the minus R group. But you see in compound 2, right, we are having what? Alkoxy group. Alkoxy group is what? That is a plus R. Plus R means it will reduce the acidic. Plus R will do what? It will reduce the acidic strength of the phenol. Means what? 2 is actually less acidic than 1. It will have less acidic nature than 1 itself. Look at 3. 3 is what? Nitro group. Nitro is what? Minus R. That is in a para position. Means what? It will be able to withdraw the electron cloud from the oxygen, thereby it will come easily. The H plus can easily come out. So minus R group increase the acidic strength of phenol. So which means what? 3 will be more acidic than 1. We'll have to check, by this itself can we answer it. So what is the, for now let us keep the 4 aside. What should be the order between 2, 1 and 3? The order should be 2 less than 1 less than 3. If you write the other way means what? What is it? What it should be? 3 should be more than 1 should be more than 2. By this itself, if I can answer it means we'll answer it. Otherwise, we'll go and talk about the compound 4 also. So see here, option D is what? 3 more than 2. 3 should be more than 1, then it should be 2. So straight away we have to omit it. Option B, 3 more than 2 more than 1, omit it. Option A is what? 1 more than 2. 3 should be highest among the 1, 2 and 3, right? 3 should be the highest in terms of the acidic nature, which means what? This also cannot be. So even without analyzing the compound 4, right, we are able to find out what is the answer. You get it? Without analyzing even compound 4, where the compound should be, by looking at the order of 1 and 2 and 3, we are able to find out what is the answer. But we can check for the 4 also. So 4 is what? We have a NO2 group, but the NO2 group is neither in ortho position nor in the para position. See, plus R group or minus R group, where the effect will be felt, it will be felt in the ortho or para position. So if we have a OR group means in para, it will be what? Donating electron flow. If you have a minus R means what? In para as well as ortho, it will be withdrawing electron. But here nitro is there, but you see here, the OH group is attached to what? Meta position. So nitro, we know it is minus R group, but the minus R effect will not be felt because OH is in the meta position. But what we should also keep in mind is NO2 group is also what? A minus I effect group. It will be what? Electron withdrawing in terms of the inductive effect. Generally what we see is a resonance effect is more prominent or more dominating than inductive effect. But since the resonance effect cannot be felt in the meta position, what can be definitely felt in the meta position? Minus I effect can be felt. So minus I effect means what? Still it is electron withdrawing only. As a result, the tendency of the hydrogen to come out as H plus will be definitely more than the normal phenol case. It will be the tendency for the H plus to come out will be definitely more than normal phenol. But it will not be as high as the compound 3, because compound 3 is going to be strongly acidic. Why? Because NO2 is having OH in the para position. So which means what? The compound 4 will be more acidic than 1 but less acidic than 3, which means what? We'll have 3 more than 4 more than 1. So compound 4, where it is going to be? It will be between 1 and 3. It will be more acidic than 1 and less acidic than 3, like that. Next, look at this. The organic compound which can be purified by steam distillation. See, what is a normal distillation? When you have a mixture, okay, we simply boil them. The vapors will be taken and then they will be what? Condensed. This is a normal distillation procedure. But if we are boiling up to certain temperatures, right, the compound itself might undergo some what we can call as they might undergo some decomposition or things like that at specific temperatures. So just like that, we cannot do the distillation for all the substances, particularly like some essential oils and all that, right? The simple distillation might not work because they might decompose these essential oil compounds. Further, what is the procedure that is followed is what we call as the steam distillation. Steam distillation means along with whatever is the mixture of the components that we are boiling, we will be letting in steam. Now, because the steam coming in here, right, the total vapor pressure will be what increasing. So as a result, right, the component we'll say is a steam volatile. That is the naming that we'll use. What do we say? The component is what? Steam volatile. It will be able to come into the vapor even at low temperature. The low temperature itself, this can come into the vapor. So as a result of it, what we are avoiding the risk of decomposition of that particular compound. If you have to really heat it to the normal boiling point, right, the compound might have got decomposed. But because we are doing the steam distillation, the presence of steam is actually making the particular component volatile. So this will come along with the steam. Now when we take it to the other chamber, right, we will condense it. So we look for a property. The property is that component must be immiscible with water, because once we condense it, we will get water along with that component. If it is immiscible, means it will be very advantage for us. Why? Because already it will be separated. Typically these essential oils, right, they will be immiscible with water. So we will clearly see that they will be separated out. So those are the two conditions we look for. What are the two conditions? One, the compound must be steam volatile. Second is what? That must be immiscible with water. So the examples of these compounds are aniline. So aniline is an example of these compounds that are distilled by steam. Essential oils. Then we have orthonitrophenol. So all these are what? Examples of the compounds for which we will be doing what? Steam distillation for the purification. Next, look at this. A molecule which has 1 degree, 2 degree and 3 degree carbon atoms. 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree means what? Primary, secondary and tertiary. So what we have to do? We have to just go one by one. First compound is what? Option A, they are saying 2, 3, 4. Trimethyl pentane means what? Pentane means we will have a 5 carbon. 2, 3. So in this, if you check, right, what are the carbons that are there? This is what? Primary. Primary means the carbon that is bonded to only one more other carbon. Then of course we have, look at this. What is this carbon? Bonded to 3 more. Tertiary. Tertiary. The option A, right, is only having what? Primary and tertiary. So this is not having secondary. Look at option B. Chlorocyclohexane. Means what? Cyclohexane to which there is a chlorine substituent. In this, all the carbons, right, they are just bonded to 2 more other carbons, which means what? It is just having the secondary carbons. Look at option C. 2, 2 dimethyl cyclohexane. See here, this naming, right, is little bit ambiguous. Okay, so not ambiguous, but I mean, we should actually say this is incorrect naming, but yeah. Because if you have a cyclohexane on this, right, if there are 2 methyl groups on one particular position, we will not start the numbering from somewhere else. We will actually start the numbering from here only. We will not actually call it as 2,2 dimethyl cyclohexane. This is not even cyclohexene. This is what they are saying, cyclohexane. So we would rather call it as what? 1,1 dimethyl cyclohexane. Okay, so there is some ambiguity in the name, but even otherwise also, right? Look at it. These methyl groups are what? Primary. All the other 5 carbons of the ring are what? They are all secondary. The carbon that is bonded to the 2 methyl groups, right? You see here, it is bonded to actually 4 carbons. It is what? Quaternary. So in this option C, we are having primary, we are having secondary, we are having quaternary, but we are not having tertiary. Okay. So we'll go to option D. Option D is what? Methyl cyclohexane. Methyl cyclohexane means this is option D. Yeah. So we are done with option C. Methyl cyclohexane. So which means what? On the cyclohexane we have a methyl group. You see here, what is it? It will be having what? Methyl group means that methyl carbon is what? It is the primary carbon, because it is bonded to only one more other. All the other 5 carbons of the ring are what? Secondary. The carbon to which methyl group is attached, you see here, that is bonded to what? 3 more carbons, means what? This is tertiary. So the compound in option D, what is it? Methyl cyclohexane, right? It is having what? Primary. It is also having secondary. It is also having tertiary. Okay. Next we have a numeric question. A closed 10-liter vessel. This is the closed 10-liter vessel which contains 1 liter of water gas. Water gas means what? A mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen gas. They are saying 1:1, means this is in terms of the moles ratio. 1:1 means what? It is in terms of the moles ratio. Okay. And 9 liters of the air. The air is what? 20% of oxygen by volume at STP conditions. The contents of the vessel are ignited. So what we are doing? We are just igniting the contents of the vessel. The number of moles of CO2 in the vessel is closest to. See, when we ignite or when we do further combustion, right? What is the thing that we know? CO will get connected to what? CO2. So we want number of moles of CO2 means, because when CO is converting into CO2 means whatever the number of moles of CO, right? Same will be the number of moles of CO2, because carbon will not come from air. In air, right, the amount of carbon is very minimal, like 0.03% by volume. Okay, that's very minimal. So we'll just look at the carbon monoxide converting into carbon dioxide. So here, when you look at what is the information we know about carbon monoxide, in the 10-liter vessel, 1 liter is the water gas. STP conditions, molar volume is what? 22.4 liters. That contains 1 mole of gas. How much is the water gas given? 1 liter, right? So 1 liter contains how many moles? 22.4 liters contains 1 mole. 1 liter means it will contain what? 1 by 22.4 moles. This is the number of moles of water gas. Now water gas, what is the breakup? It is a 1:1 mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. Correct. It's a 1:1 mixture, which means what? In that 1 by 22.4, half of that is carbon monoxide, half of that means what? Half into, that is equal to what? 1 by, this is the number of moles of CO. When we ignite it, right, the total CO is going to be converted into CO2, which means the number of moles of CO2 will be what? 1 by 44.8. See here, we don't have to do the final step of calculation till the last decimal place. Clearly 1 by 44.8 means what? This cannot be 3.6, this cannot be 0.9, this cannot be also, because see, 1 by 5 is 0.2. So this cannot be 0.22 also. Without even really doing itself, we can say what is it? It should be 0.022. Why? Because all the others, right? 0.9 means what? It should be 9 by 10. 3.6 means it should be what? 3.6 by 10. So the only thing possible we'll see is what? 0.022. Like that we can answer it without really doing. Otherwise, even if you are simplifying and doing, right, you can take it like what? You can take it like 1 by approximately 1 by 45, like that you can take and do the normal division to find up to at least 2 decimal place or 3 decimal place, we can find out. But otherwise, as I said, right, we can answer it without even doing the division step also, we can answer. See, only when you are able to conclude the answers like this, right, you will be able to save the time. Otherwise, for each and every question, you will have to end up spending time, means it will consume a lot of time from you. Okay. So we'll go to the next question. This is a question based on the photoelectric emission. A certain metal has work function 2 electron volt. It is irradiated first with 1 watt power having 400 nanometer wavelength. That is the source description. And later with same 1 watt power 800 nanometer light. Among the following, the correct statement is. So they are also giving us the Planck's constant value and speed of the light. See here in the photoelectric emission, right, we will be using the Einstein's equation of the photoelectric emission. So what is it? The energy of the emitted, the energy of the incident radiation, the energy of the incident radiation will be equal to work function plus the kinetic energy of emitted electrons. So the thing is, only when the incident photon or incident radiation energy is more than the work function, right, then the electrons will be emitted. Otherwise, electrons will not be emitted. So we look at if you are using the energy of the incident radiation, right, will be equal to what? Hc by lambda. So for the sake of calculation, right, we will generally use this Hc value, we will take it as what? 1242 eV nanometer. Divided by the first wavelength is what? 400. If you put the 4 nanometer, right, nanometer gets cancelled. So this is what? 12.42 by 4. So 12.42 by 4 means what? This is 3.1 something will come. That is the energy of the incident radiation. That is what? 3.1 electron volt. You can see here clearly this is what? More than the work function. Work function is what? 2. So if you use 400 nanometer means there will be emission of the photoelectrons. But if you are using 800 nanometer, right, the energy is what? Hc by lambda means what? 1242 eV nanometer. So this is a very useful conversion. Huh? The value of H into C is equal to what? 1242 eV nanometer. Divided by lambda is what? We will take 800 nanometer. So basically what we will get exactly? Half of that. So (12.42 by 8 will come. This is exactly half of what we have. Half of that means what? It will be 1.5 something will come. 1.55. But here the thing that we need to look at is what? This is clearly less than the work function. Work function is what? 2 electron volt, which means what? With 800 we cannot have a photo emission itself, because for the photo emission to happen, right, the energy of the incident radiation should be more than work function, which means among the options, right, if you look at them, option A is what? Both colors of light give rise to same number of photoelectrons, because from the 800 we are not even getting any photoelectrons. Option B is what? 400 nanometer gives less energetic photoelectrons than 800. See, 800 we are not even getting any photoelectron itself. So option C is the closest, because option C is what? 400 nanometer leads to more electrons. Means what? We are actually getting photoelectrons only from the 400. From 800, right, we will not get any photoelectrons. Option D is obviously wrong, because option D is, what is it saying? 800 gives more photoelectrons. 800 does not give photoelectrons itself. Okay, so this is how we'll be able to, so this conversion factor, it is very important. H into C will be equal to what? 1242 eV nanometer. This will be useful in converting the we will be able to easily find the energy of the radiation, because straight away we can put in the formula and get the energy in electron volts. Next we have a question about the equilibrium. Among the following, the correct statement about the chemical equilibrium. Option A is what? Equilibrium constant is independent of temperature. See, equilibrium constant, right? It will depend upon the temperature. So this cannot be the correct answer. Equilibrium constant tells us how fast the reaction reaches equilibrium. No. Equilibrium does not talk about how fast or how slow we will reach equilibrium. That is something that we will study by using what? The concept of chemical kinetics. Option C is at equilibrium, the forward and the backward reactions stop, so that the concentrations of the reactants and products remain constant. No, the forward and the backward reactions keep happening, they keep occurring, but at the same rate. That is why we call equilibrium as what? Dynamic equilibrium. Once we reach equilibrium state, right, the rate of forward reaction will be equal to rate of backward reaction. So that also cannot be. So straight away, what is it we can conclude? Because if you have analyzed the three options and they are not coming correct, means obviously what is it? Option D has to be the right one. But we can look at option D. What is option D? The equilibrium constant is independent of whether you start the reaction with reactant or product. See, if you look at a reaction, right, like you see A plus B. So equilibrium constant means what? It will be active mass of the products. See, this does not depend upon, say all these are what? Active mass of C, active mass of D, active mass of A. These are what? The active masses at the stage of equilibrium. It does not matter whether you are starting with some initial concentration of A or you are starting with zero concentration. It does not matter. In this equilibrium constant expression, right, what are these values? Active mass of C and D, active mass of A and B, means these are what? The active masses at the equilibrium stage. So whether we will start with what amounts of A, what amounts of B, that does not matter. It will be only a function of what? Like he said, it will be dependent upon the temperature. That is the reason why when we are giving the value of equilibrium constant, right, we will clearly mention the value of equilibrium constant at 350 Kelvin. Like that we will keep on mentioning temperature. Why? Because it will be a function of the temperature. Next we have another straightforward question. Among the following, the plot that shows the correct marking of the most probable velocity, average velocity and root mean square velocity. You know what this is? This is what we call as the Maxwell's velocity distribution curve. This we can answer it even without really knowing what is the Maxwell's velocity distribution curve. Why? Because we already have an idea. Most probable means what? The velocity that is possessed by maximum fraction of particles, maximum number of particles. So most probable, VMP, right? You see, what is the y coordinate? Number of molecules. The maximum number of molecules, right, will possess the most probable. So it cannot be option A, it cannot be option B, because they are saying the highest number of molecules are having average. Highest number of molecules, right, or highest fraction of molecules will be having what? Most probable. So it cannot be A, it cannot be B, it cannot be C. It has to be what? Only option D. Most probable means what? The velocity that is possessed by maximum fraction of particles. And in general, right, what are the values? Most probable is what? Root 2 RT by M. Average is what? Root 8 RT by pi M. RMS is what? Root 3 RT by M. The comparison is in terms of values. Most probable value, right, will be lesser. It will be the least than average than RMS. We can clearly see in that option 4, right? Most probable velocity is least. Then comes average. Then comes RMS. RMS value is the highest. Next we have a question about the comparison of the covalent or ionic characteristics. It's based on the Fazan's rules. So look at this. The covalent characteristics of calcium chloride, barium chloride, strontium chloride and magnesium chloride. See, all these are what? The chlorides of the same group, second group, right? So where do we have these elements? Magnesium, then calcium, then strontium, then barium. All these are basically what? Divalent. Charge is same. Every place the anions are same. The only difference is cations. Cations, right? As the size of cation increases, the ionic character increases. This is the Fazan's rule statement. Size, larger the size of cation, it will be what? More ionic. But here look at this, what they are asking. They are asking in terms of the covalent characteristics. So when the cation size is increasing, right? Ionic character increasing means what? Covalent character decreases. So as you go down the group, right, what happens? The covalent character of these chlorides, basically what? It will be decreasing. So which means the least covalent is what? Barium. So barium chloride, that is the least covalent. Then strontium, then calcium, then magnesium. So it's a straight question based on the Fazan's rules. So the Fazan's rules are basically what? The guidelines to identify the nature of the compounds, covalent or ionic. Compare the nature of these compounds. So we have cation size, anion size and charge values. So for the ionic nature, the favorable conditions are what? Large cation, small anion and lesser charges. These are the favorable condition for the ionic nature. Covalent means exactly opposite. Like I said, right? Large cation means ionic, preferable. Covalent, what is the preferred one? Small cation size. That is why you see magnesium chloride. Magnesium is what? Small cation. That will have the highest covalent nature. Next we have a question on the significant figures. Among the following, the correct statement is 100 point. So this is represented as what? Decimal form. See the terminal zeros, the zeros that will come after the non-zero digits. The terminal zeros are significant when they are a part of a decimal number. Like here, what is it? This is a decimal number. So these terminal zeros are what? Significant, means one is already non-zero. These two zeros also significant. So totally what is it? It will have 3 significant digits. But option A, what they are saying, 100 point will have 4 significant. It has only 3. Look at option B, 1.00 into 10 power 2 has 4 significant. See, exponential numbers, 1.00 into 10 power 2 are the scientific notation, right? Significant figures is only based on the number part. 1.00 means what? This is a decimal number. So the terminal zeros will be what? Significant. Already 1 is non-zero. So this will also have what? 3 significant figures. This also will not have 4. Then option C is what? 2.005 has 4 significant. See, 2.005 means what? 2 and 5 are what? Non-zero digits. They are significant. These two zeros are what? In between non-zero digits. Zeros in between non-zero digits are significant, right? So totally it will be having what? 4 significant figures. That is correct only. Next we can look at option D also. What is option D? 0.0025 has 4 significant. See, 0.0025 0025 means what? These zeros are the preceding zeros, or the zeros that will come before the non-zero digit. They are what? Not significant. Only 2 and 5, which means what? 0.0025 has got just two significant figures. So this question is based on the significant figures rules. Look at the next question. This is a question based on the graphical interpretation of the thermodynamic process. So thermodynamic cycle in the pressure volume plane, which means what? Pressure is given on the y-axis and volume is given on the x-axis. Here AB and CD are what? Isothermal process. Means AB is isothermal, we will have a temperature T1 constant value. CD is also isothermal, we will have another temperature T2. So here what we need to understand is, if you fix the volume, right, and draw a vertical line, we will see that the pressure here P1 value is more than P2. So P1 more than P2 means what? At a constant volume, pressure will be directly proportional to temperature, right, which means what? T1 value is more than T2. That is the conclusion. And BC and DA are adiabatic. BC and DA are what? Adiabatic. Adiabatic means what? The heat exchange in that process will be 0. So in both BC as well as DA, right, delta Q value will be equal to what? Del Q will be 0. In both the things, del Q will be 0. The same cycle in temperature entropy plane. So we have to represent temperature on the, we can see all the graphs, right? Temperature is on the y-axis and entropy is on the x-axis. So how do we represent this on the temperature entropy plane? See here AB part and CD part are at constant temperature. Means AB part and CD, right, they must be horizontal lines. Okay, so that is the case with all the options. AB and CD are horizontal, but the temperature of AB T1, right, should be more than temperature of CD. In option C as well as option D, right, you see AB temperature is actually what? This is shown as a lower value, but this should be higher. Which means what? These two cannot be the answer clearly, because the temperature is AB temperature is shown as what? Lower value. The AB temperature is what? Higher than CD temperature. Now it is between A and B options. Both the BC and DA are what? Adiabatic. Del Q 0. See, what is entropy change? dQ in a reversible process by the temperature. So dQ is 0 means what? ds also will be 0, which means the BC part and the AD part, right? Entropy change 0 means what? Entropy must remain constant. Entropy constant means what? They must be vertical lines. So only in option A we have that. You look at here, BC and DA, right? They are vertical lines only in option A. Option B, they are giving it as a curve. So entropy must remain constant, right? Constant means what? That must be a vertical line. So by this itself we can conclude what is the answer. It must be option A. Okay, so this way, we can do further analysis on whether the temperature is increasing or temperature is decreasing. All the analysis we can do, but without even doing all of that, we can conclude the answer. Same way, even if you look at the AB part, right? You see, what is the AB part? AB is basically isothermal, volume is increasing. Means what? When volume is increasing means what? Entropy will increase. So AB part, you can see here, right? AB part, what is it? Volume is increasing. Volume increasing means what? Entropy will be increasing. So when you move from A to B, entropy will be increasing. C to D means what? Volume decreasing. So entropy will be decreasing. You see here C to D, entropy will be decreasing. Like that we can do further analysis also. But anyway, we got the answer. Next we have a question on the comparison of ionization potential. The first ionization potential of elements: sodium, magnesium, silicon, phosphorus, chlorine, argon. Where are all these? Them? Sodium, magnesium, then we will get aluminum, then silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon. All of them are what? These are all the third period elements. And their ionization potentials are given 5.14, 7.65, like this they are given. we have to find what is the ionization potential of potassium. So here no, there is no way that we can actually tell that okay, this is the value of ionization potential of potassium like that. But if you see where does potassium come, it comes in the sodium family, right? It comes just below the sodium, which means what? In a group, what is the thing we know? As you move from top to bottom, right, ionization potential will decrease. In a group, when you move from top to bottom, what happens? Ionization potential is going to decrease, which means what? Potassium ionization potential should be less than the sodium value. Sodium is what? 5.14, means potassium must be definitely what? K ionization potential value should be less than 5.14. This is what we know. Among the options, right, look at option A 13.3, this cannot be. Option B 18.2, option D 6.4. So the only possibility here, we cannot actually say that okay, potassium value will be this much like that. The thing that we know is that it should be definitely less than sodium, means what? It should be less than 5.14, means the only possibility is what among the given options? It is option C. Next we will move on to the 2 mark questions. So this is a reaction based question. Hydrocarbon X with a molecular formula C4H6. C4H6 means how is it? CnH2n minus 2 type. This can be an alkyne or it can be a diene also. It decolorizes bromine water. See, decolorizing bromine water means what? That is that can be a characteristic of both alkynes as well as dienes, because unsaturation means what? Unsaturation, it will be undergoing what? Addition reaction. So that is shown both by alkynes as well as dienes. So we cannot conclude the answer based on that. Next, look at it. What else is given? It forms a white precipitate with ethanolic AgNO3 solution. Means what? This is silver nitrate test, right? Ethanolic AgNO3. If we are having a terminal alkyne, right, it will be able to form a white precipitate. See, among the given options, right, only one of them is the terminal alkyne. Where is it? Only here we have the terminal alkyne. Others are not terminal alkynes. Check it. These two are anyway alkenes. This is an alkyne, but it is not terminal. Only the D is the terminal alkyne. See, ET, C triple bond CH. When it is reacting with what? The ethanolic AgNO3, the silver nitrate test, right, it will be giving us what? The white precipitate of So by this itself we can conclude the answer. What is the answer? It must be option D. But we have one more statement given, that is to verify or to check. Look at this. The second information, right? What is second information that is given to us? We have to use that also to verify or check. So the treatment of X with HgCl2 in aqueous H2SO4, oxymercuration. So the compound X, when it is undergoing what? Oxymercuration, alkynes on oxymercuration, right, they will be giving us what? Alkynes will be giving us either an aldehyde or a ketone. Okay, so here what is the thing? We have the terminal alkyne, so ET C triple bond CH. Oxymercuration product is what? Just like hydration, but no. So here what is the thing? We will not get a diol, but this will be converted into what? The corresponding ketone form. This is what? This is a methyl ketone. You see here, this is what? It's a methyl ketone. The second step, what they are saying, the compound that is produced, right, on oxymercuration will give a yellow precipitate when treated with I2 and NaOH. This is what? Iodoform test, right? Methyl ketones will be undergoing iodoform test. They will produce what? Yellow color iodoform. So methyl ketones will be able to give us what? Haloform test, right? So that way we will be able to confirm it again. Next we have a question which is based on the quantitative analysis. 0.102 grams of an organic compound X is oxidized with fuming nitric acid. The resulting solution after reaction with excess barium chloride is producing barium sulfate. See, from that compound X we are doing the process. And finally what we are getting what? Barium sulfate. So here the thing that we need to keep in mind is the sulfur is getting as it is carried. So the sulfur in barium sulfate, right, where is it coming from? It is coming from the compound X. What is the amount of barium sulfate formed? 0.233 grams. That is the amount of the barium sulfate that is formed. Now the thing that we need to conclude is which of these given compounds is actually that organic compound X. So what is this X? Like that we have to conclude. So these problems, right, this is a very general type of problem. Barium sulfate amount is given 0.233 grams. See, what is the molar mass of barium sulfate? Barium atomic mass is what? 137. So 137 plus we have a sulfur 32 plus we have 4 oxygens, 4 into 16. How much it is? Totally 233. So 0.233 grams of barium sulfate means in terms of number of moles, right? What is the number of moles? The number of moles will be equal to what? (0.233) by 233. That is equal to what? 0.001. 1 millimole basically. That is the number of moles of the barium sulfate. See, every one barium sulfate molecule has got sulfur atom, which means the number of moles of sulfur is what? Same, 0.001. That is the number of moles of sulfur. Number of moles of sulfur is 0.001 means what? We can tell what is the mass of sulfur. Mass is what? 0.001 into sulfur atomic mass 32. That will be what? 0.032 grams. This is the mass of sulfur. Now, this much sulfur is actually coming from where? The organic compound X. What is organic compound X? The mass of organic compound X is what? 0.102. So if you look at it, right, the mass percentage of sulfur, what is it? 0.032 by 0.102 into 100. If you multiply by 1000 means what? 32 by 102 into 100. If you want, we can simplify it. Basically what? We have to just get this mass percentage and compare it with the 4 compounds given in the options. We have to compare it with the 4 compounds given. In fact, the option B is straight away ruled out. Why? Because option B does not even have any sulfur. We can rule it out. Among the given options, right, we have to calculate where the mass percentage of sulfur actually matches. That is it. So if we say, for example, we will take option D. I mean, we'll have to, there is no other way. We have to work out option by option. If you take option D, what is it? We have 1 sulfur, carbon, 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 5 carbons. Each carbon is bonded to 2 hydrogens. So totally what is it? We'll have 5 carbons, 5 into 12 plus 10 hydrogens, 10 into 1 plus 1 sulfur. 60 plus 10 plus 32. How much it is? 102. In that there is 1 sulfur atom. Means what is the mass percentage of sulfur? Means what is it? 32 by, exactly, numbers are also matching. Okay, so what is the conclusion? The conclusion is option B should be the organic compound X. So how do we conclude which is the organic compounds in all these type of problems, right? The idea is simple. From the given conversion or the process, right, we will have to estimate the linking element, like that we will say. Here what is the linking element? Sulfur is the linking element to the barium sulfate and the original compound X, right? What is the linking element? This is sulfur. So the linking element, we have to calculate the mass percentage and we have to see where it is actually matching. If you try to do it for option A or option C, right, we can see that, you know, the mass percentages, right, they will not actually match. I mean, here we are kind of lucky because even the numbers are also matching, 32 by 102. But otherwise, sometimes what happens, we will be required to do that simplification, calculation simplification we have to do. See, if you have to check option here 8, 2 sulfurs are there, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 carbons. Each carbon is bonded to 2 hydrogens. 4 carbons means what? 48. 8 hydrogens will come. 2 sulfurs. This is what? 56 plus 64. How much it is? 120. This is the molar mass. In that we have 2 sulfurs. So mass percentage of sulfur means what? 64 by 120. You will see that it will not be actually matching with that. So we have to check one by one and then conclude the answer. Next we have a question about the thermodynamics. The specific heat of a certain substance is 0.86 joule per gram per Kelvin. Specific capacity. Assuming ideal solution behavior, the energy required to heat 10 grams of 1 molar of its aqueous solution from 300 to 310. See, we are forming what? Aqueous solution means there will be that substance, we can call it as XL like that, and water. Total how much mass we are taking? 10 grams. If I know what is the mass of this in the 10 grams, right? If I know what is the mass of this X and mass of water, what is the total heat required for the substance? Mass into its specific capacity into delta T. For water, mass, specific capacity into delta T. That's it. No. Both of them specific capacity is given. For each of them, right, the temperature change delta T will be what? 300 to 310 means delta T will be 10 Kelvin. Only thing is we should know what is this mass of X and mass of water. Total sample is what? 10 grams. Total sample is what? 10 grams. So here the thing is, they are giving us that this is what? A 1 molar aqueous solution. Using that information, we have to find out in the 10 gram sample, right, what is the mass of X and mass of water. 1 molar, see, 1 molar means what? If you take 1 kg or 1000 grams of water, in that 1 mole of the solute is there, which means what? 58 grams of X is present. So total mass is what? Total sample means 1000 plus 58. What is it? 1058. So we can see what is the mass fraction of X means what? 58 by 1058. What is the mass fraction of water? 1000 by 1058. Now here the total sample is what? 10 grams, right? In that, what will be the water amount? 10 into mass fraction. In that, what is the mass of X? 10 into 58 by, this is it. Now all we need to do is just go on with the calculation. So the total heat required is what? Mass of X. Mass of X means 10 into 58 by 1058. This will be in terms of grams into specific heat capacity 0.86 joule per gram per Kelvin into delta T is what? 10. This is for the substance X plus water. Water, what is it? 10 into 1000 by 1058. Specific heat capacity of water is what? 4.2 joule per gram per Kelvin into delta T is 10. If we simplify this, right, we will be able to tell what is the overall heat required. So this also will involve some amount of calculation. So if you, just look at this in terms of approximate values, right? This will be coming approximately 4.7, and this will be coming approximately 397 in terms of the SI unit joule. So total means what? 4.7 plus 397, what is it? Here we can just go with approximations little bit. What is this? 401.7. So first getting the idea and then Of course, we'll have to do that multiplication and all that. Next, we have one more numerical question. In fact, this is the only numerical type of question possible in the chapter hydrogen and its compounds. In fact, in this chapter, right, we have a ready-made formula. What is it? The strength of H2O2 solution is 1.79 normality. Its strength can be also expressed as, see, from normality, we have to convert this into what? Volume strength. The conversion is volume strength. I mean, these are very standard formulas. I will be equal to what? Normality into 5.6. Or if you have molarity, means molarity into 11.2. These are two standard formulas. And we can see how this formula also comes, but using this formula, normality is given as a 1.79. So 1.79 into 5.6 means this should come close to 10, it should come. So volume strength means what? It will be equal to 10 volumes. I mean, we can see how this conversion comes. What is the conversion? Volume strength is equal to what? Normality into 5.6 or molarity into 11.2. So we'll see how this comes. When H2O2 is dissociating, right? It will give us what? H2O plus half O2. At STP conditions, if you take the molarity as X, 1 liter of this H2O2, right, will basically contain how many moles? X moles. On dissociation, for every 1 mole of peroxide, we will get half a mole of oxygen, which means X moles will give us what? X by 2 moles of oxygen. STP condition means what is the volume of 1 mole? 22.4 liters. So X by 2 means the volume will be equal to what? 22.4. It will be in terms of liters. It will be what? 11.2 into X. This is the volume of oxygen formed at STP. Volume strength is defined as, if you take 1 liter of that peroxide, how many liters of oxygen at STP is liberated? So how many liters of oxygen at STP is liberated? Look at this. What is the formula? It is what? 11.2 times of X. So for that, right, what is the thing we will say? The volume strength is equal to what? 11.2. Here X is what? Molarity. So what is it? 11.2 into molarity. And we can convert this into normality. What is the molarity? Normality by 2. Molarity is what? Normality by 2. So we can have a formula. So in this, right, 11.2 into normality by 2 means what? It is what? 5.6 into normality. So generally, if you say, suppose, I mean, for the sake of clarity, if you say that the final answer is what? 10 volume, means if you take 1 liter of peroxide, right, when it is undergoing the dissociation, it will be actually giving us what? 10 liters of O2 at STP conditions. That's why we call it as what? 10 volumes. That is the volume strength concept. So next we have a question on the states of matter. The isotherms of a gas are shown below. So we have the statements, 4 of the statements are given, and we have to basically, there is one more part of this question. So among the statements, we have to conclude which of them is actually correct. Combinations, which of them are correct. So look at this. I mean, first of all, right, here Tc means what? Critical temperature. So what is the information about the critical temperature? We know critical temperature is the temperature which? Above critical temperature, right, a gas cannot be liquefied. So in fact, if you look at the statement 2, right, Tc is the highest temperature at which a gas can be liquefied. So Tc is the highest temperature at which a gas can be liquefied. After that, gas cannot be liquefied. So in fact, the second statement is correct. Now when you want to just look at the comparison between the T1 and T2, right, let us fix a volume. We'll just draw a vertical line, fix the volume. This is corresponding pressure P2, which is higher, P1 is higher. What do we know? If you have a fixed volume, pressure is directly proportional to temperature. Means what? T1 is more than T2. In fact, what is it? T1 more than Tc more than T2. T1 is actually what? A higher temperature than the critical temperature. So which means at T1, right, because it is a higher value than the critical temperature, at T1 the gas cannot be liquefied. So this is also correct. See, sometimes what we will have to do is we'll have to look at the options, and even without reading through all the other statements, right, we might be able to conclude what is the answer. See, what is the thing we are having? We are having already option or the statement 2 is correct, as well as the statement 1 is also coming correct. But if you look at the options, right, option D is saying that all 4 statements are correct, which means we can't escape. Okay, so we can't have a short route. We have to go through all the statements and then only we will be able to conclude. Look at this. So we are done with first, and basically, this is not second actually. There is some small typo. It should not be second. It should be what? Third. This is second. Okay, so which means what? First and third are already coming correct. Now we have to verify the second and fourth. Second is what? At B, the liquid starts to appear at T2. T2, this B to A rate is basically the phase change. So from point B, right, this side, what we have is gas. From point B, we'll start to see what? The liquid formation. So which means this statement 2 is also what? Correct. So as the liquid is getting formed, right, because phase change happens at constant pressure, the volume you can see keep on decreasing. From B, if you go towards A, means volume keeps on decreasing because we are moving from gas to liquid state. So the second statement is also correct. Now we will come to the fourth. At point A, a small increase in pressure condenses the whole system to a liquid. So where is the point A? Point A is on the, it's basically what this AB line represents what? The vapor liquid line. And vapor liquid line, right, if we just increase the pressure, if we increase the pressure means what? That will lead to condensation of the substance. If you decrease the pressure means it will lead to what? Evaporation. So on the vapor liquid boundary, right, if you increase the pressure means what? It will lead to condensation. Decrease the pressure means it will lead to what? Evaporation. So at point A, which is on the boundary, small increase in pressure will condense the entire system into what? Liquid. So this is it. So this is what is the, so which means what? All the 4 statements we see are what? Basically coming correct. Okay. So hope this is useful for you guys, and for all your KVPY preparation, you can just download the Concept Digital app. You will find mock tests, and also you will find the previous year papers. Both you can take it as a test mode, as well as you can also take it in review mode. So all the very best for the KVPY preparation, and we'll keep updating more videos about KVPY.